This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
Welcome into another 3-Mall bonus edition. I am your host, Cole Manbeck, joined as always by former Kansas State wide receiver and partner at Wildcat NIL, Curry Sexton. As you can see, I'm at the Homewood Suites in Washington, D.C. right now. Curry, as usual, is parked out on the porch. Appreciate Curry doing this as we're here to we're not going to talk about Baylor in last week. We're going to look ahead to the Kansas game this weekend, which I think is at the forefront of everybody's minds. We're also not going to bury the lead. We're going to talk here in just a moment about the tiebreaker situation that unfolded over the last 24 hours as the Big 12 changed the rule. That's right. For people that tried to hear the word clarifying from the Big 12, don't believe that. We'll talk on that in just a minute. But first, I'm going to give Curry the floor to talk about an upcoming event with Wildcat NIL that's coming up in December with Chris Kleiman and Lance Leipold. It's going to really, really cool thing in Kansas City. So, Curry, the floor is yours to discuss.
I appreciate it, Cole. And actually, the event will be March 4th of 2024 in Kansas City. The idea is the Cats play in Lawrence on March 5th. And so we thought we'd play off of the energy that will be surrounding that second basketball matchup. And so, we're gonna go live. By the time this podcast drops on November 16th, we will have gone live with this event that we've coined Unrivaled. And we're going to. So it's going to be an exclusive dinner for K-State and KU fans. They'll have an opportunity to get exclusive access, behind the scenes look into the football programs at Kansas State and Kansas with Coach Leipold and Coach Kleiman. The event will be moderated by none other than Mitch Holtis. So really looking forward to it. It should be one heck of an event. The rivalry is as strong as ever, and so we're trying to give the fans an exclusive look behind the scenes of this rivalry and of the two programs.
Sounds very cool. Apologies. So that's going to be March the 5th. Apologies on the date confusion there, guys. But be sure to be on the lookout for that announcement that comes out as you're listening to this podcast. It'll already have gone live, and you will learn all about it. And again, as always, we tell you, go to catsnil.com. Check out for more information and details on that event. There's also the women's basketball fashion show that Curry and I talked about last week. That's going to be in December in the Kansas City area, so check that out. And then, of course, as always, just remind you all to go to catsnil.com, check out the membership tier program, and support Kansas State if you're so inclined to do so. There's something for everybody, an option for everybody, $10, $25, $50, $99 a month. Whatever you feel comfortable giving, you're supporting Kansas State athletes and a good cause. And as we have seen, Kansas State is doing a lot of the things. Curry and Wildcat NIL are doing a lot of positive things in the community. With Wildcat NIL, they're doing everything the right way, the things the way you want it to be done, and donating the beef to the Kansas food banks and hundreds of pounds of beef from all of the Kansas State beef apparel sold for the Kansas State offensive line that they've been out and about giving, reading to boys and girls clubs, et cetera, you name it. Through Wildcat NIL, there's a lot of charity type stuff and really positive stuff going on with K-State student athletes. So check them out and go to catsnil.com for more information. All right, Curry, we're not going to bury the lead here. We're going to get into the KU matchup in just a moment, but I want to get your perspective on what's unfolded over the last 24 hours. We thought we had everything figured out with the Big 12 tiebreaker scenario. We thought Kansas State had a very good path potentially to the Big 12 championship if they won out. Oklahoma and Oklahoma State won out, and KU won at Cincinnati. All would have been heavy favorites in all of those matchups. Then Kansas State would have been in the Big 12 championship based off the way the tiebreaker was worded by the Big 12 in a three-way tiebreaker scenario. The Big 12 has since not actually announced anything other than leak it to their mouthpieces in the media and Brett McMurphy, as we've talked about. And they haven't officially came out and announced it, but they're using their mouthpieces to leak their PR thing that they've just clarified the rule, that they haven't changed it. And you've seen the language, you've seen the changes made. What is your reaction to what has transpired?
Yeah, I'm gonna attack this two different ways. I think first and foremost, it's objectively speaking, I think the rule as it was a bad one. If I'm an Oklahoma State fan and I beat Oklahoma and Kansas State, and we get in a three-way tie and we don't go to the Big 12 title game, I'd be furious. So the rule as it was a terrible one. with that being said, you can't change a rule with 10 days left in the season. And I'm not buying into the clarification argument at all. I think I told you yesterday or today, there is not a lawyer in America or on this planet that could make a colorable argument that the rule, that this was a rule clarification. It is 1000% a rule change. The rule was eminently clear that if there was a tiebreaker and all of the teams in the tiebreaker did not play each other, then go to step 2. And step 2 set forth that, the way that you assess or analyze that 3-way or 4-way tiebreak. And so it is absolutely a rule change. And I think it's absurd that with 10 days left in the regular season, the Big 12 is changing the rule and isn't coming out and saying, guys, we wrote a bad rule. We own it. They're leaking it to Barry Trammell and Brett McMurphy and all of these different folks in the media. So just, Brett Yormark has a really good track record so far in about a year and a half. And this is really the first case where he's truly fumbled the bag. And he deserves all the backlash that he's getting right now, because it's just it's a really unfortunate circumstance. And I think you and I talked about, there are instances of other conferences having rules that are on both sides. You have the Pac-12 and I believe the ACC who have the same rule. They have the same exact rule that we have that doesn't include the language the Big 12 is trying to read into the rule. And then you have conferences like the AAC who have the language that Brett Yormark and the Big 12 are now trying to insert. And so you absolutely could have made the rule what you're now trying to make it had that been what you desired to do, or had you drafted a better rule. But that's just not the case. And so really, really frustrating. I hope that Iowa State beats Texas on Saturday, and all of this discussion and anger, it becomes moot. But just a truly absurd sequence of events here.
Well, Curry, it makes the Big 12 look incompetent, because it's either one of two things. Either they wrote a really dumb rule, they realized that they're changing it with 10 days to go in the season after they got a little bit of pressure around it in the tiebreaker scenarios, or they had an oversight of the rule, didn't realize they had it brought to their attention. And this is something that could have easily happened. Like when they wrote the rules and you don't have round robin and you don't have divisions, this is something that is very likely to occur. You just saw it with the Pac-12 last year. Utah, Washington, and Oregon all tied at 7-2 for second in the Pac-12. There was a 3-way tie. Utah lost to Oregon. Washington beat Oregon, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. Utah went to the conference championship game. Now, there wasn't a scenario where Utah, Washington, and Oregon all three played each other, so it's not identical, but there was a 3-way tiebreaker. The Pac-12 had that language in their existing agreement. The ACC did as well. These are conferences that had this exact setup. And so the Big 12 trying to push out head-to-head's been this is the industry standard. Well, it's really not. Like, you're pushing that now because you realize you screwed up. But I'm with you. I don't think you can change it 10 days during the season. And Curry, obviously you have a legal background. I mean, I don't know if you read like all the bylaws or anything, but is there anything that can be done from a legal standpoint, from your perspective? I'm not expecting you to be a subject matter expert on this, but if you were an attorney for Kansas State or somebody, like, is there anything that can be done?
Yeah, well, I don't know for certain. I think I had drinks with an individual who works in the athletic department last night, unrelated to this development, but obviously it came up, and there were a couple of points that we discussed. One was, if you're the Big 12, it's not only why are you doing this in the middle of November, but why are you doing it? Why are you doing it now? Why not at the very least wait? And I know that the timing would be worse, but wait till next week. Maybe things sort itself out. Maybe K-State loses at KU. Maybe Texas goes up to Iowa State and loses. Maybe Oklahoma State or Oklahoma drop another game. But so by doing this, it seems a little bit premature. But I think what it comes down to is it a clarification? Is it a change? I think you and I and many others agree that this is absolutely not a clarification and is in fact a change. Then if it's a change, then the athletic directors have to vote. And that was something we discussed is, well, this has to go to a vote, right? And so I believe they had their weekly ADs call today, and I would have to imagine that came up in some form or fashion. I don't know if a vote was taken, But you would think that a rule change at this juncture and a rule change at any juncture would have to go to a vote. I'd be curious to see how that would shake out, because you have schools like K-State, Iowa State, KU even. Some of these schools who maybe are in a better position if the old rule stays in place. And then you have schools like Oklahoma State who are absolutely in a better spot if the rule change is made. And so I'd be curious to see how some of these other schools view it, because, again, I do think that objectively this is a rule change, and objectively as it's all playing out, it's a bad rule. So it's just a nightmare scenario. The Big 12 has done an absolutely terrible job handling it. All those PR people that they've hired obviously aren't doing anything with respect to this. Just unfortunate how everything is unfolded here.
Yeah, Curry, I'm in PR, and the thing that bothers me most is just not being transparent and truthful about what's happened, and coming out and just justifying what you've done. Just tell people, like, we clearly changed the rules. We didn't clarify it. That bothers me, that they're not just being truthful on that front, and they're treating everybody like they clearly can't see that they changed the rule. So
yeah, you're treating everyone like
bothersome. Hey, transitioning to the game that's going to unfold on. Go ahead, Curry. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I was just going to say, and what makes it worse is they're treating all of us as fans of the conference. They're treating us like we're unintelligent by saying, guys, come on. Head to head has always carried the day here. And it doesn't take an intelligent person to read that rule and say the way you're interpreting it is just wrong. So, but let's move on. I think we could talk about this for hours.
All right, we are actually going to insert the interview that we did with Kansas State senior corner Kanan Garber. It's a really timely interview, as Keenan actually just had his first touchdown of his career, and it came as a defensive back for Kansas State against Baylor. It was a pick six, and obviously those of you that know, and you'll hear it in the interview, Keenan came to Kansas State as a wide receiver in the 2019 recruiting class, was one of Chris Kleiman's first recruits that he brought in, came in as a wide receiver, and transitioned last year just before the Big 12 championship, the defensive back. It's a really cool, unique story. He's from Lawrence, very timely for this weekend with the Kansas game and what it means to him, played at Free State in high school. So really looking forward to bringing you this interview with Kanan Garber, and just sit tight, enjoy our partnership with Wildcat NIL and Riverbank Brewing, and enjoy the interview here with Kanan Garber, and then we'll come back with Curry and talk K-State KU. All right, welcome to this week's 3-Mall Player Spotlight, brought to you by Riverbank Brewing in Council Grove. We're thrilled to be joined this week by K-State senior corner Kanan Garber. But before we get started with Keenan, we want to tell you all once again about our friends at Riverbank Brewing, who are making this weekly segment on 3-Mall possible, as they partner with Wildcat NIL and 3-Mall to bring a K-State football player on the show each week. Riverbank's located on Main Street in historic Council Grove. Terrific craft beers they brew in-house with Kansas-grown barley and hops. Brewery located just off the Neosho River, has an awesome outdoor patio seating area overlooking the river, multiple TVs outside, multiple TVs inside, so you can enjoy the terrific fall weather we're continuing to have. And Riverbank's open Thursday through Saturday in Council Grove. They have beer available, purchase on the go, so you can stock up for your tailgates the rest of this season, or enjoy it while you're watching college football on Saturday. They're going to be open for K-State's game against KU Saturday. So if you're not able to make it to Lawrence for Saturday night's game against the Jayhawks, but want something fun to do and to cheer on K-State, go to Riverbank Brewing, cheer on the Wildcats on one of their many TVs, and enjoy craft beers in the beautiful Flint Hills. For more information, go to riverbankbrewing.com or go to their Facebook page at facebook.com/Riverbank Brewing. So Keenan, man, it is awesome to have you on. And obviously, you get a pick six last week against Baylor, and we're going to get to that. But I want to go back first to December 3rd, 2022. I'm at the game in Dallas. I'm with my wife. I'm with my 6-year-old son. I'm with John Kurtz, who co-hosts this show with me. And I think it was around the second quarter of the game against TCU. I saw number 35 trot out on the field at cornerback. We knew Echo had gotten hurt earlier in the game. And I'll just be transparent. I'll be candid with you, Keenan. Everybody around me were trying to figure out who's 35 that just went out there. We knew you were number one. And so it took us a minute. And then we realized it's Kanan Garber playing corner. And I don't think most of us knew at the time you had even switched to cornerback. You never played a snap at corner. You came as a wide receiver. So just take me through what that moment was like when you took the field as a defensive back in the Big 12 championship in such a big moment.
Man, it was really just a overwhelming feeling for me. It was a great feeling. I was just excited to be out there. We had some injuries, and so I just knew I had to stay ready and just be there when my number's called, and just go out there and perform, play as hard as I can with the limited stuff I knew at the time. So I was just going to go out there and play as hard as I can. That's what my mindset was.
What were the nerves like? Take me through like the emotions of going in such a big moment for your first snaps on that side of the field, playing a position you'd never played before in a game. Like, were you nervous? Were you calm?
More so, I was just trying to focus on my assignment. Honestly, I wasn't really focused on being nervous or anything like that. I just knew I had to know what I had to do and just go out there and perform. So that's pretty much where my mind was at the time. Just don't mess up and just be somebody that the team can count on.
So take me through the previous week or two that led up to that Big 12 championship game. When did you actually make the transition from receiver to corner, and how did that process work?
It was around 2 weeks prior to the championship game. The process pretty much, I just wanted to try something new. So I went to Coach Kleiman's office. We were just talking about the future, and he mentioned playing cornerback, and I mentioned playing cornerback actually. And he said, we can start you on scout team today. So I went to scout team that day and worked the scout team that week. And then fast forward to the championship game, we were just dealing with some injuries that week. So they're just like, be ready. You never know when your time can come. So I just knew I had to stay prepared for that whole week. And, I was studying with my roommate at the time, my best friend, Pac, every day, just watching film and just picking his brain. So that's pretty much how it started.
Yeah, so I mean, as a scout team corner too, you obviously don't get a lot of reps with the first team or the second team defense. And I ask you this with all due respect, Keenan. I mean, how the heck in just 1 week did you know enough on what to do defensively to understand the defensive assignments and what all is going on with such a complicated defensive scheme to be ready? I mean, it's so incredibly impressive.
Really just meeting with the coaches every day and just meeting with defensive players. And like I said, Pac, my roommate, I just go home every single day, just watch film and just ask him questions nonstop until I figured it out. It was a tough process at first, but they all caught me up, from the coaches to the players, to be prepared that week. So just having them around just made everything so much easier. I couldn't have done it without them.
If I remember correctly, also, I think you got thrown on Quentin Johnston as well, a few snaps in that game. Correct me if I'm wrong, but first round pick out of TCU, now playing for the Chargers. And Keenan, I want to transition, back to, we're jumping in the time machine here a little bit, and we'll get back to the Saturday and the pick six and what's going on this season. But you were a dynamic receiver coming out of Free State High School in Lawrence. And for everyone who didn't hear that, Keenan's from Lawrence. So this is a pretty timely interview with what's going on this weekend with the Cats matchup in Lawrence. And we'll get to that in a moment. But you signed to join Chris Kleiman's first recruiting class at K-State. And I guess, first of all, what led you to choose K-State?
Just throughout the whole recruiting process, they were the number one team, just showing the most support. They came to my games, came to my school, constantly just keeping in contact, messaging me, and just on Twitter. And Coach Klein and Sped, our recruiting coordinator, they did a great job of just recruiting me and getting me to the camps and down to Manhattan. So I felt very comfortable with them, and they just showed a lot of love compared to everybody else.
And things maybe didn't materialize as you thought when you signed with Kansas State at wide receiver, and I'm sure you maybe weren't getting quite as much playing time as you would have liked. And look, Keenan, in the era of the transfer portal, most guys would have packed up and left to get a fresh start elsewhere. You didn't. You persevered. You looked for another avenue to find success and went to the coaches and asked about changing positions. Why didn't you leave? Why didn't you transfer? Or was that something that you considered?
It's something that went through my head, but at the same time, I created a great bond with my teammates and coaches. They've been there for me throughout everything. So I knew I wanted to stay in Manhattan, just stick it out, and just try to find something that works for me. And switching the corner was a great move for me.
I just have a ton of respect for you doing that and sticking around. So let's go back to Saturday's game against Baylor, and I know you've been asked this week. I heard you asked it on post-game radio, but you get your first career touchdown, and it came on defense. And I know when you signed with K-State, you probably thought you were going to be getting numerous receptions or plays going to the end zone on the offensive side of the field, and instead your first career touchdown comes on a pick six. How surreal is that?
Very surreal. I never would have thought I would have got a touchdown on defense. Never would have believed that. I thought I was the offensive guy, but it was just great to just be in there and finally get that touchdown. You know, that's something that I wanted to check off my list. You know, being at Kansas State, I always wanted to score a touchdown, so it felt great to just go out there and see all the fans cheering and just get into the end zone and have everybody hype for me.
What did you see on that play? Take me through the read.
Pretty much Coach Kleinerman gave us a great call. Shout out Coach Kleinerman. And I just saw the quarterback shoulders turn, you know, and I saw my guy sit down on the hitch, and I just jumped it. I saw the ball coming, and then I saw daylight. Nobody in front of me, just a lot of purple. So it was a great feeling.
Are there advantages, Keenan, to transitioning from wide receiver to corner because you understand what receivers are looking to do, the route trees and all of that, and what quarterbacks are doing, offensive schemes? Maybe take me through what maybe some of those advantages are from, you know, that transition.
Just being a receiver, you learn a lot about like just splits and alignment, and like you said, just it helps me a lot just knowing the route tree and just where people are lined up and just seeing different pictures and that I've seen on offense that can really just translate and help me on defense. So I say those things help me out a lot, just from my offensive perspective and just transitioning it to defense.
You guys are number 12 in the country now in pass efficiency defense. It's one of the best marks for K-State football in a long, long time. And, you know, maybe a little bit of a slow start, a couple big plays, miscommunication. You guys were breaking so many guys in early on in the season. You guys have been terrific over the course of Big 12 play. What has led to this success for this team after losing so much star power on the defensive side of the football? You guys have really continued it and maybe even taken it to another level.
Just growing more and just getting more comfortable out there. People would like to say that we were inexperienced. You know, we lost a lot of guys on the defensive side of the ball. So really just seeing more pictures and just playing and taking it to practice and just Monday through Friday, just working those little things that maybe would have messed up on Saturday and just correcting them. So those things definitely really helped us so we could become the team that we're trying to strive to be.
I buried kind of a secondary lead here, Keenan. You know, I mentioned earlier, you're from Lawrence. You guys play KU Saturday. It's the first ranked matchup between the two programs when both teams are ranked since 1995. What does this game mean to you?
Man, this is a game I always grew up going to. I'd always be on the hill just playing football, tackle and two-hand touch, and just watching this game. So being able to play in it is an amazing feeling, you know, something I dreamed of, honestly. And I'm just so excited to get down there, get to Lawrence. You know, my family and friends are going to be there. So it's really going to be a good time, you know. I'm excited.
Did you grow up a KU fan, Keenan, just being in Lawrence?
Yeah, definitely. I grew up a huge KU fan, big KU basketball fan, football fan, and came to Manhattan and things switched up a little bit.
Yeah, I hear you. Did they remind me, because I believe they made a late push for you on the recruiting trail, but were they in on you early on in the recruitment, or did they just come after you late in the process?
They came on late in the process. They didn't recruit me as much in the early set of it. So at that time I was already committed to Kansas State, you know, and I feel like it was the right decision for me, and I'm happy I made it.
Couple more and we'll get you out of here, Keenan. But we know KU's offense over the last couple seasons, they've been really good. And, you know, they have a great scheme with Andy Koldenicki, their offensive coordinator, Lance Leipold, and what they're doing there. What challenges does their offense maybe present? What are some of the things you guys are focused on heading into this matchup that you need to be cognizant of?
Just they do a lot of things, a lot of different things on offense, just from motions and just the different alignments and different sets you see. You know, you have to be prepared for each and everything that they bring out, and they switch up a lot of things. So we've been working hard this week, just seeing the different pictures and just locking things in so we can be ready on Saturday.
Yeah, you always hear people talk about that. They play with your eyes a little bit. I mean, even when you're watching a game on TV, like some of their schemes that they do, it definitely is a little tricky, and you got to be on all alert with what they do. Hey, last question. I asked Austin Moore this question when we had him on last week, and you guys have had a lot of guys who returned for a sixth season this year. You have 8 or 9 guys, and I believe due to the COVID season, you have 1 year of eligibility remaining.
Yeah.
Have you given any thought to a potential sixth season in Manhattan?
I've definitely given some thought to it, but right now I've really just been focused week to week on the game. So, that's just something I'm going to have to talk to the coaches about and everybody. So after the season. So, yeah.
Well, hey, Keenan, if you choose to come back, we'll be thrilled to welcome you back to Kansas State. But if not, regardless, we appreciate all you've done for this program, and best of luck on Saturday. Best of luck the rest of this season. We'll all be rooting for you, and looking forward to you guys finishing the season really strong. Appreciate you, Keenan, and appreciate Riverbank Brewing and Wildcat NIL for making this segment possible. So go support them. And Keenan, thank you so much. Best of luck this weekend.
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate you having me.
All right, we are back. We really appreciate Keenan for jumping on with us as always, and we appreciate Riverbank Brewing and Wildcat NIL for making this collaboration a possibility as we bring you a K-State football player on 3 each week. So, Curry, let's talk about the Kansas K-State game this weekend. It's the most anticipated showdown, Sunflower Showdown, since 1995. The last time both teams were ranked was 1995 when Kansas State actually won that game 41-7. KU 25th in the college football playoff poll, K-State 21st. And so, just in general, I mean, you're a Kansas guy. Like, how much does this game mean to you as a player from the state of Kansas?
It means a ton, and it means a ton for a variety of reasons. I think first and foremost, it's just it's our biggest rival. It's the if you grew up a K-State fan, it's the school you grew up cheering against, and in a lot of ways, at least up until recently, the staff, the various coaching staffs they've had at KU have not recruited a lot of the guys that we've had success with, whether walk-ons or scholarship guys. And so there's a lot of guys have a chip on their shoulder going into this matchup because, there's two high-profile schools in Kansas, and a lot of times only one of them recruits you and gives you an opportunity. And so there's that to it. And then I think the last layer to it is, especially as these guys are now, the rivalry has been so lopsided for the last 15 years, and taking away a couple years in the middle 2000s, really for the last 25 to 30 years. And so there's a little bit of a pressure to carry on that legacy and to not be the team that breaks the streak. And so that all of those things, put placed together makes this a really powerful matchup, and really makes, gives it a lot of importance when you're talking about the K-State side of things.
Kansas State has traditionally, Curry, had way more Kansas kids on the team than KU, right? I think this year K-State has over 50 Kansas kids. KU has under 30. They're getting more Kansas kids. They're getting more walk-ons to come in from the state of Kansas. Lance Leipold's improving there, but they have always been a little underwhelming when it comes to the Kansas numbers. I mean, how significant is that to have, that number of Kansas kids on your roster in a game like this?
Yeah, I mean, it's incredibly significant. And I think history, and I don't have data to support this, but I do think history would show that being the team with more Kansas kids leads to more success, both with respect to this rivalry and even outside of this rivalry. I mean, when KU was having a lot of success under Mark Mangino, they were loaded with Kansas kids. When you think back to guys like Jake Sharp and Daryl Stuckey, and Kerry Meyer, and the list goes on and on and on. They had a lot of Kansas kids that, if Bill Snyder was still at the helm at K-State back in those days, I don't think those kids go to Lawrence. And so I think having Kansas kids leads to success. I think those kids are great leaders in the program. They help get others to buy in. And then I think with respect to this matchup, they help their teammates understand the importance of it and the significance of it. And so I think there's a lot of benefit to having Kansas kids on your roster if you're K-State or KU. And fortunately, whether it's Coach Snyder or Coach Kleiman, our coaching staffs for the last 30 years, minus Ron Prince, have placed a significant emphasis on having Kansas kids on the roster.
So let's look at the actual on-the-field component. KU's got a great offense. Let's start there, then we'll transition to the defense and wrap this up. So KU, we know their offense is great. We don't know who's going to be at quarterback. They're really coy right now. Andy Koldenicki said today. We're recording this on Wednesday night. He said that Jason Bean took some reps today in practice. He hadn't practiced earlier this week, suffered a head injury, according to Lance Leipold, in the Texas Tech game. So Kansas State doesn't know if it's going to be Jason Bean or freshman walk-on quarterback Cole Ballard, who played the majority of the game against Texas Tech in their 16-13 loss. But regardless of who is at quarterback, they've got talent on this KU offense, and I think we all agree it's a really good scheme that Andy Koldenicki and Lance Leipold have. So what are the things that you see that will potentially challenge this K-State defense, and where do they really need to be cognizant and aware to, win this football game and control that KU offense?
Absolutely. And I think you're right. I mean, a lot of, that Koldenicki and Coach Leipold and their staff, they deserve a lot of credit for the work that they've done. I mean, they've built a really powerful offense. And I think, first and foremost, I know that the game plan probably changes a little bit depending on who's at quarterback, but I think if it's Jalen Daniels, Jason Bean, or Cole Ballard, I don't think it matters. I think K-State should win this football game. And as to Cole Ballard versus Jason Bean, I think, obviously if it's Jason Bean, you have to respect his running ability a little bit more, but I don't think the game plan is all that different. Whether it's Ballard or Bean, you want to stop Devin Neal, stop Daniel Hishaw, and force them to beat you in the air. I mean, we've seen over the course of the last several years with Jason Bean and last week with Cole Ballard, these aren't necessarily quarterbacks who are going to kill you through the air. So I think you take the approach that Iowa State and Texas Tech and Oklahoma State and some of these other schools have taken, and you load the box, you make them beat you through the air. And I think we've seen so far this year that the 3-3-5 defenses have given them a little bit of trouble as far as running the football goes. And so it's bottling up Neal, it's bottling up Hishaw, it's making sure that Bean doesn't get outside the pocket and beat you with his feet. And it's making him stand in the pocket and beat you with throws. And now, obviously, that they still have a good, they still can throw the ball. I mean, they still have capable receivers. I mean, between Luke Graham and Lawrence Arnold and Skinner and Mason Fairchild, they have guys on the outside who are very quality receivers. And so our defensive backs are going to have to be, they're going to have to be on their P's and Q's. But the game plan is not going to be all that different than it was in Austin a couple weeks ago. And short of a couple big plays that we gave up to Xavier Worthy and A.D. Mitchell, our DBs did a really nice job with those guys. And so I think, the game plan is bottle up the run and make Jason Bean or Cole Ballard beat you.
Yeah, I think when you look, you mentioned Arnold, Skinner, Fairchild, Grimm, Curry. Those are four guys that have been around that KU program for a long time. Really good players. They've combined for over 5,000 yards receiving in their career and over 350 receptions. So good players and some bigger wide receivers, and Arnold and Skinner, both 6'3", 6'5". Graham's more that guy that's going to get you that first down, and when you need it on third down, he also can make some big plays, though. And Fairchild, we've seen him pop open in the seam a lot. Look, I agree completely with you. I think a lot of the success for Kansas State will just be predicated on, can you take away the running game from KU, or can you limit them? Because so much of their system is predicated on being successful with the run. 60% of their offensive plays are via the run. That's top 20 in the country in terms of 16th highest, actually, I think, in terms of number of plays that they run that are running plays. And, you look at all the things they do schematically, it's based off what they running the football. They run that speed option, drop back pass that tends to usually pop a guy wide open, and play action is such a big key to their game. So completely agree with you. Let's switch just quick to the defensive side of the football. K-State, look, this is a KU team that there's no secrets about it. They haven't been great at stopping the run. It's been a bad KU defense for several years now. Now they're getting better. They have improved. Their sack rate when you drop back to pass is 8.1%. That's top 35 in the country. They're getting after you when you drop back to pass. They've created more of a pass rush. The yards per carry they're allowing per game, rushing yards per carry, it's 4.5. It's not great, but it's I think it's around like 89th, 90th in the country now. It was 5 yards per carry, which was 116th last season. So they've got a little bit better defending the run as well, but it's still a team that over their last 2 games, they've been good against the run. The 4 games before that, they gave up 5.6 yards per carry and over 1,000 yards in those 4 games, 270 yards per game on the ground during a 4-game stretch. So is this a game where you expect K-State to just line up and try to run smash mouth football at Kansas and then just go occasional play action on them?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think, they're like you said, I mean, they have some guys on the edge who can get after the quarterback. And then they have really quality secondary guys. I mean, between Mello Dotson and Kobe Bryant and Kenny Logan, and Burrows, I mean, they have guys that have experience and that are talented on the back end. And so, I think, the recipe shows you run the football, you run the football against this defense and you'll have success. And so I foresee us, sticking to the run and letting the run create a lot of opportunities in the air. But I think that's the recipe, is you got to be able to establish the run.
Well, hey, we'll go ahead and wrap this up, but you want to give me a score prediction? I don't usually put you on the spot for predictions, but I think for this one, I think you might be there. I'm probably going to be there as well. I'm going to see what you think. What's the score going to be? What do you got?
I'm going to go 38-20. I think the Cats get it done. I think we're playing really, really well. I think our guys, like I said, I mean, Coach Kleiman is going to have these guys ready to go. It seems like over the years we've played them better in Lawrence than we do in Manhattan. And so I think the Cats come out, and I think the Cats win by a couple scores.
We'll take that. I had K-State 38-31 on our KU pregame pod on 3MAW, and I think DY and John each had it as a 6 to 7 point K-State win as well. I'd gladly take at least a 2-score win, Curry. I don't want to be sweating this one late, and hopefully Kansas State continues the streak to 15 in a row against KU, continues to build on that, and marches toward a potential 9-win regular season, a chance for 10 wins overall. And who knows, even though the Big 12 has messed around with the tiebreaker situation, maybe Texas loses at Iowa State, maybe Oklahoma State loses at Houston. They did just lose by 42 to UCF, folks. So there's no telling what could happen over the next couple of weeks, and maybe K-State can still find their way back into the Big 12 championship picture. So, Curry, appreciate you as always for jumping on with us and doing this. Appreciate Riverbank Brewing and Wildcat NIL for bringing you the Kanan Garber interview, and appreciate Keenan for jumping on with us on this show. It's been a little bit of a clunky week. I apologize to all of you. I've been out traveling, so schedule's been a little out of whack. Curry and I had to record this a little later in the week, so those of you that have come to expect this around Tuesday or early Wednesday, I apologize, but we'll get back on track next week and hopefully talk about a K-State win with Curry. So appreciate you all. Appreciate Holiday Distillery as well and 360 Vodka, and appreciate Wildcat NIL and Curry Sexton. Thank you for listening.